Starting off the list at number 10 is Chloe Grace Moretz. The poor girl was forced out of Disney even though she had a squeaky clean record. It was for a pretty simple reason. They found someone better. Well, in their opinion, that is. If you remember the 2008 Disney movie Bolt, you will remember that Miley Cyrus was the voice of the main character named Penny. However, Miley actually wasn't the original person who was supposed to have the role. It was actually given to Chloe first. She did all of her recordings for the entire movie before Disney decided to replace her last minute. The reasoning was that Miley's fame was on the rise at the time and they wanted to use a bigger star and a bigger name. The only good news to this story is that even though they fired her from the role, they did keep some of her voice work to use as a younger Penny and still gave her credit in the movie. But the majority of her hard work was wiped out, which she may still be holding a grudge towards because years later she was attached to the new live-action Little Mermaid film but left the project on her own because she was too busy. Too busy or a little bitter? We may never know. At number 9 is Jake Paul. You would know him as one of the most famous, loudest, and most obnoxious YouTubers in the whole world. He's both loved and hated by many people. It really just depends if you can handle his personality or not. Outside of his YouTube career, he started to get involved in other projects, and one of them led him to starring on the Disney show Bizaardvark. The show actually helped him reach some legitimate fame, but some of his behavior on YouTube led him to getting fired from the show. They simply couldn't support the incidents he was getting himself involved in. The thing is, Jake went on to say that leaving the show was his decision, but I feel like we all know what's up and what really went down. However, I will let you guys decide the truth. Tell me down in the comments which story you believe. Was he fired or did he quit? Up next at number 8 is Mitchel Musso. People fell in love with this Disney star when he took on the role of Oliver in the Hannah Montana series. He was Miley Cyrus's hilarious best friend. From there, he continued a successful career with Disney, doing voiceover work in the show Phineas and Ferb, and then went on to star on another Disney show called Pair of Kings. He had a great reputation in the Disney universe, but things started to go south. He was forced to leave earlier than planned after he was arrested for a DUI back in 2011. The arrest itself was bad enough, but what made everything worse was that his blood alcohol level was significantly over the limit, and he was only 20 years old at the time. So he wasn't even legal or old enough to be drinking. Turns out that he spent a few hours in the drunk tank and was released when he was in a better state. He was fired from the show immediately and hasn't worked with them ever since. He hasn't worked much in general ever since, to be honest. Which is a shame because I actually loved him on Hannah Montana. Sliding into the number 7 spot is Megan Mullally. Depending on how old you are, you might know her from a few different TV shows. Younger fans probably know her as Tammy from the show Parks and Recreation, and older fans know her as Karen Walker from Will and Grace. I am older fans. I know her from Will and Grace. Most people don't know that she was actually attached to a Disney project during her time on that show. She was hired to do voiceover work for a character in Finding Nemo. It's been reported that the studio told her she could use whatever voice she wanted to do with that character, so that's what she did. She didn't want to do that really high-pitched, annoying, squeaky Karen voice, but that's what they were hoping for. Turns out that she refused to do that voice, and they ended up firing her from the movie. She'd already started recording for the part, and every time she would get in the recording booth, she was encouraged to raise her voice higher. When speaking about it, she said, "That voice was used for boozy, sharp-tongued Karen Walker on Will and Grace, so why would Disney want to be associated with that?" You know, she raises a good point. And at number 6 is Jake T. Austin. He rose to fame when he played Selena Gomez's brother on the Disney series Wizards of Waverly Place. From there, his career continued with Disney Productions, and he later starred on an ABC family show called The Fosters. But he started making some headlines for some bad behavior. It all started at the 2014 Teen Choice Awards when he approached the gifting suite backstage and security didn't allow him in because they didn't recognize him. That's never a humbling moment for an actor. Jake ended up throwing a big tantrum and he started screaming, swearing, and throwing things. And yes, he pulled the classic line, "Do you know who I am?" But then he quickly answered his own question and said, I quote, "I'm a presenter. Who the f are you?" Disney didn't stand for his little freak out moment and fired him not too long after from his role on The Fosters. He also had legal issues on his record. He was charged as an underage drinker and was also involved in a 4-car hit and run crash. So they had more than one reason backing up their decision to let him go. Halfway through the list at number 5 is Lalaine. Yes, she goes by one name. If you were a Lizzie McGuire fan, you would know Lalaine for playing her best friend Miranda. She was one of Disney's biggest stars at the time, starring alongside Hilary Duff on that wildly popular show. But out of nowhere, Lalaine went MIA and we didn't see her character in the last few episodes of the series. Not only that, but when the Lizzie McGuire movie came out later on, everyone reprised their role except for her. In the movie, they said that her character was on vacation with her family in Mexico. Fans were wondering what actually was going down behind the scenes, and turns out she was let go by Disney. She was having some personal struggles and was arrested for possession of meth in 2008, so it was pretty serious. She hid her problems for a while until she started to miss court dates and had a warrant out for her arrest. She was basically forced to plead guilty of the possession no matter what because of all the times that she was skipping out on court. However, we recently found out that there is going to be a Lizzie McGuire reboot, so we're going to have to wait and see if Miranda will show up this time, or if she's even invited. Next up at number 4 is Steve Whitmire. His name might not sound familiar to you, but his voice would. He was the voice of Kermit the Frog for 27 years. He was known for being the Green Frog up until he was fired in 2017 for reasons we aren't really sure of. It was in July that year that news hit the internet saying Matt Vogel would be replacing him. Steve finally came forward and explained that Disney actually fired him way back in October, but was only making it public now because they had a replacement for him. The studio said that he was fired due to, I quote, unacceptable business conduct that they asked him to work on for months. Apparently he didn't show up to set sometimes, and he sent emails in which he attacked the writers and director. However, Steve tells it differently and says they had a disagreement on the new scripts they were creating for the new ABC series. One disagreement they had was the script said Kermit lied to his nephew Robin about his breakup with Miss Piggy. Steve was firm on his beliefs that Kermit wouldn't lie to him, so it all just kinda seems like they weren't getting on the same page about a lot of things. But really, to fire someone? I don't know. Here we are, number 3 with Ryan Gosling. Remember when he was a mousekeeper with Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake all those years ago? Well, apparently 12-year-old Ryan had a bit of an attitude problem while starring on the Mickey Mouse Club. His attitude was so bad, it's the reason he was fired. During an interview in 2008, he spoke about it and said that he was considered to be such a bad influence on his other co-stars that their mothers actually complained to the studio about it. At that point, he was told by the studio that he basically wasn't Disney material because they needed someone mature enough to educate a young audience about mature topics. I'm not sure what they really expected from a 12-year-old. Disney would have never hired me at 12 years old. Despite being let go, it's safe to say his career did not suffer because of it. Taking over spot number 2 is PewDiePie. He's the biggest YouTube star pretty much of all time. He's made a life for himself simply by his YouTube channel, and because he was making so much money on the platform, he was signed by Disney for some deals. They had him on their roster to have him involved in promotions and any other lineups that they had in store for him. But only 1 month after signing a deal with them, they decided to fire him and called off the deal. Why? Because one of his YouTube videos was completely inappropriate to be under a name like Disney. He posted a video that showed 2 men laughing together as they held up a sign reading "Death to all Jews." The video caused tons of controversy and was eventually removed. PewDiePie admitted he had paid the 2 men to do it and issued an apology saying that he was simply kidding, but Disney quickly cut ties with him, joking or not. Taking the number 1 spot on our list is Bella Thorne. The actress has been open about her time on Disney and all the struggles she faced when it came to the pressure of having that Disney image. She told a story of the time she was almost fired when she was 12 after she took a picture on a beach in a black bikini that her mom had bought her. They said it was too much skin and threatened to kick her off Shake It Up, the TV series that she starred in. But more recently in 2016, she spoke about how she left Disney, and turns out that they terminated her contract as soon as her show came to an end. The good news is she was happy about it. She told Nylon, I quote, "When I got off the Disney Channel, I stopped listening to people telling me what I needed to be, this and that. I literally would talk with a higher voice in interviews because that was the whole innocent Disney appeal." Needless to say, being let go was just a blessing in disguise for her. Alright.
In at number 10, Madonna. They say everything happens for a reason, and for Madonna, it was probably a good thing that she got fired. Before her illustrious career as a performer began, Madonna used to work at a Dunkin' Donuts in Times Square. After she had dropped out of college and moved to New York City in search of fame, she was really strapped for cash. Because of this, she decided to take this job, but unfortunately, she didn't even last a single day. Apparently, at some point in the day, she accidentally squirted jelly filling for the donuts all over a customer, and her manager just ended up firing her on the spot. Following this rough start to her journey in the Big Apple, Madonna went on to work in several other fast food places as well as waitressing jobs. Eventually, she was introduced to the city's lively punk rock music scene in 1979, and the rest is pretty much history. Speaking of history, in at number 9, Thomas Edison. I wanted to include some historical historical figures in this list because we never really get the chance to talk about these types of celebrities, if you will. Thomas Edison is most definitely a celebrity. In his 84 years, Thomas Edison had acquired over 1,000 patents for his inventions. Although he didn't exactly invent the light bulb, he is most certainly responsible for the first commercially successful version. Although before all of these inventions that we take for granted every day, Thomas Edison used to work in a Western Union office. At night, he would secretly conduct experiments until one night in 1867, while experimenting with a used battery, he accidentally spilled some of the battery acid on the floor. It ended up eating through the floor and landing on his boss's desk. Sure enough, he was fired, but it also gave him more time to pursue inventing. In at number 8, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Jean-Claude Van Damme is a second-degree black belt in karate and also has a very impressive kickboxing career. He's been lucky enough to be able to showcase these talents in several movies, although his obsession with kickboxing is also what got him fired from movies as well. Back in 1987, Jean-Claude Van Damme was originally cast in the film Predator. At that point in time, though, he was completely unknown as an actor and heavily leaned on his physical abilities to kind of wow people in Hollywood. He would constantly try to show producer Joel Silver and stunt coordinator Craig Baxley just how high that he could kick, and apparently they even had to have a private meeting with him where they told John that he needed to stop kickboxing. John just didn't understand, but Joel made it very clear by telling him that the Predator character was not a kickboxer. He refused to let up on adding in bizarre kicks in certain scenes, so they just fired him. It's a good thing they did. That'd be a way different movie. In at number 7, Bill Hader. Before Bill Hader ever became well known as a comedic actor and Saturday Night Live alumni, he worked at a movie theater in college. While attending Scottsdale Community College in Arizona, Bill had really long hair and a beard. He even said that he kind of looked like Charles Manson, minus the mandatory bow tie that he had to wear as part of his uniform at the theater. Apparently, while taking tickets for a showing of the Titanic, a group of sorority girls came in and were kind of blocking the doors, and he asked them several times to move, but instead they just ended up making fun of him and just being really rude overall. So on the spot, he tore up their tickets and said to them, "By the way, the boat sinks at the end, Leo dies, it's great, and you think he's sleeping, but he's frozen. Oh, and the old lady throws the jewelry in the ocean. Enjoy the movie." Following that, his boss came over and asked, "Did you just tell them the end of Titanic?" As Bill nodded, the boss replied with, "Now I have to fire you." Still worth it in my opinion. In at number 6, Anna Wintour. Dame Anna Wintour is a British-American journalist and editor who has been the editor-in-chief at Vogue magazine since 1988. Her assertive attitude in this position was even used as the inspiration for the character of Miranda Priestley in The Devil Wears Prada. Before all of this fame though, she began her career in New York as a junior fashion editor for Harper's Bazaar. Although after making some serious waves in the industry for her very innovative photo shoots, she was told by her editor and boss Tony Mazzala that she was just too edgy. After only working for 9 months in this position, she was fired for not heeding the warning sent by her employer. Although looking back on it, she said that getting fired was an excellent learning experience and that it never held back her style. In fact, she regularly recommends to her fashion students that they get fired from at least one job. What a weird thing for your teacher to say. In at number 5, Hugh Jackman. Without a doubt, Hugh Jackman is one of the most beloved stars in Hollywood and is widely known for his role as Wolverine. As great as a career that he has had in acting, Hugh never really saw himself making a living from it. As a teenager, he hustled to find as much work as he possibly could, which included things like delivering brochures and pamphlets for local businesses. Although his first real job was working the counter at his 7-Eleven. He was actually really great at his job and believed that his customer service skills were unmatched. Unfortunately, the entire reason he got fired from 7-Eleven was due to his boss thinking that he talked way too much to the customers. He only worked in this position for 6 weeks before being fired, but upon reflecting on his previous jobs, he said that every single one was an important lesson. Each job had taught him the importance of fulfilling his role and taking responsibility. Hey man, if you get that out of getting fired from 7-Eleven, all the power to you. In at number 4, Nicki Minaj.
You've been there, you actually, you worked there at one point?
I have worked at a couple different Red Lobsters and I've gotten fired from all 3 or 4 of them.
Well, I'm sorry to bring that up.
During an episode of The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, he and Nicki Minaj went on a date to Red Lobster. It was obviously done for promotion of the lobster chain, but it also revealed Nicki Minaj's job history. Apparently she had worked at 3 or 4, she doesn't even remember, different Red Lobsters, but was fired each time. Perhaps one of the craziest reasons for her getting fired was when a couple stole her pen. After serving this couple, they borrowed her pen to write the tip in on the bill, but instead they just ended up leaving the table with no tip and even stealing her pen in the process. Enraged by this, Minaj went out to the parking lot and began banging on the car window asking for her pen back. She never did get that pen back, and her manager stepped outside to see her flipping them off with both fingers. I almost did it. That would have been a lot of unnecessary blurring work for the editors. Nonetheless, she was fired on the spot because, you know, you can't bang on a customer's car and flip them off because they didn't tip you and took your pen. But hey, it all worked out for her in the end. In at number 3, Walt Disney. Before he went on to pioneer the most memorable characters of our childhood and change the game when it came to animation, Disney was fired from one of his first jobs. In 1919, Walt worked as a cartoonist for the Kansas City Star newspaper, although his editor said that Disney lacked imagination and had no good ideas. Oof. This wasn't even his first rough beginning. After being fired from that job, he acquired an animation studio called Laugh-O-Gram. With little to no experience in running his own studio, he eventually ran that business into bankruptcy. And it wasn't until he and his brother moved to California to chase financial success in Hollywood that Walt really started to come into his own. It was there that he and his brother eventually created Mickey Mouse, which would, kickstart his career as a very successful animator. I would say very successful animator. I mean, you got Disneyland. What more do you want? In at number 2, Liam Neeson. Most people will recognize this actor from his role in the Taken franchise as well as his time with Batman Begins and Star Wars. Over the years, he has become a very prolific actor and has received a ton of accolades for his on-screen tough guy talents. Although before he ever became a big-time Hollywood name, the Northern Ireland actor held a ton of different jobs. Everything from being a forklift operator to even teaching high school students, which will be the focus for this point in particular. While he was teaching, he found it difficult to calm down his classroom and reprimand students that were disrupting the class per se. After telling one student in particular to leave the classroom, the 15-year-old student pulled out a knife and threatened him. Little did he know, Liam had started boxing at the age of 9 and was very used to using those skills to de-escalate situations. So instead of telling the kid to leave again, he just punched the student in the face. In an act of self-defense, of course. Regardless, the school's authority didn't think that this was the right course of action and fired him on the spot. You know what? They're probably right. Last but certainly not least, in our number 1 spot, Oprah Winfrey. According to Forbes magazine, Oprah Winfrey is worth an estimated $3 billion. However, before she ever hosted her own show for 25 seasons and started her own network, Oprah used to just be a news reporter. In her early days of working for TV, Oprah worked for Baltimore's WJZ-TV, although she was fired from her job after being told that she was getting too emotionally invested in her stories. Imagine telling Oprah that. On top of that, the Baltimore TV producer reportedly told her that she was unfit for television news. They didn't just tell her to pack up her stuff though. Instead, she was offered a role on the daytime TV show called People Are Talking. This show became so widely successful that she stayed in this position for 8 years before eventually starting her own show. This is just a perfect example though of someone getting fired because they weren't the right fit for that particular job, but then using that feedback and applying it to a career path that made more sense. Without Oprah getting emotionally invested in her stories in the years that followed, she wouldn't have been nearly as successful as she was. Here's a woman that took what one boss told her was a weakness and she just flipped it into her strength. It's all about perspective, and I kind of hope that this list helps anyone that may be going through a similar ordeal. Rant over. The rant has finished.
Kicking things off at number 10, we have Ryan Gosling. Did you know Ryan was a Disney star? Cause I didn't. That's right, back in the 90s, Gosling was part of the Mickey Mouse Club alongside Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera, and Britney Spears. A totally star-studded lineup, but they didn't know that yet. Yep, Gosling got his start on the Disney Channel, but didn't stick around for too long after joining the crew at the age of 12. In an interview from 2008, Ryan opened up about his 2 years on the Disney Channel. The Lalaine actor revealed that producers from the Disney Channel thought that Ryan had a bit of an attitude problem and was a bad influence on the other kids. Now how could you say that about our darling Ryan? I mean, look at the man. He's oozing with sweet, gentle energy. Okay, let me stop before I start drooling. Gosling also went on to say that he was apparently considered to be such a menace to the other kids that the mothers of his co-stars went to the execs to complain about his behavior. The studio then ruled that Ryan wasn't Disney material because of his behavior and was soon let go. Obviously this little hiccup didn't stunt his career in the slightest, but it still would have been interesting to see him in more Disney projects. Up next at number 9 we have Teo Halm. As a spin-off slash reboot of the classic Disney show Boy Meets World, Girl Meets World started rolling, Disney execs were thinking of their cast list. Originally, Girl Meets World was supposed to focus on Corey and Topanga's daughter Riley, but they were also going to feature her older brother Elliot. Naturally, as anyone would be after being cast for a Disney show, Teo was stoked. This was going to be his big break. Unfortunately for him though, after filming the pilot episode with the whole cast, producers decided that they were going to cut Teo's character from the show. They released a statement saying that various creative changes are often made as a project transitions from pilot to series. Although Teo tells fans that there were no hard feelings towards the Disney team, it still got to sting a little. I mean, it seems that every kid's dream is to be on the Disney Channel, and for Teo to have that dream taken away when he was so close, man, that blows. His career hasn't taken much of a hit since being kicked off the Disney show, and I'm sure we will continue to watch his success unfold. But Disney, you lost out on a real one there. At number 8, Adrian Bailon. Amigas. Cheetahs, friends for life. You know who's not friends for life? Adrienne Bailon and Disney. The former cheetah girl who brought so much success to the Disney franchise was booted from the company after a photo leak back in 2008. The Cheetah Girls franchise was going so well, and Adrienne just had to mess things up with her titties. No, but really, back in 2008, either her or her boyfriend's computer got hacked and her nudes were leaked all over the internet. Obviously, this wasn't good for her image, and it definitely was not good for Disney's either. Nudes are not brand friendly. Disney then quickly decided to cut ties with the actress, but Adrienne didn't seem to mind all that much. A lot of people believe that this so-called hack was a publicity stunt that Adrienne organized in order to be released from her contract and move on to other projects. This is understandable since she was 25 at the time. My guess is that she wanted to move on to more grown-up things, but I mean, if this didn't happen, then maybe we could have had a 4th Cheetah Girls movie, and that would have made my heart really happy. In at number 7, Lalaine. Best known for her role as Miranda from Lizzie McGuire, Lalaine was a fan favorite of many, including me. She was part of the Disney show's cast from the beginning, and she held a crucial role making up the trio of besties on the show. But mysteriously, Lalaine went MIA from the last few episodes of the series, as well as from the Lizzie McGuire movie that capped off the hit Disney show. The only explanation we as the audience were given for her mysterious disappearance was that Miranda went on vacation to Mexico during the events of the Lizzie McGuire movie. Her abrupt absence from the show was never explained further, and fans have been left wondering what actually happened to the actress. Obviously, something big had to have gone down behind the scenes for her just to be wiped off the face of the Disney empire like that. Most fans believe that Lalaine had gotten herself into trouble. In a recent interview with the Lizzie McGuire cast, Lalaine mentioned that as a kid she went through a period of time that she called the dark days. The actress highlighted how she went nuts and stupid and just being angry and acting like she was so badass. I'm thinking that these so-called dark days were just the unfortunate combination of being a kid and growing up in the media. We've seen so many former child stars crash and burn because of their time in the spotlight, so this is probably the case. Disney just didn't want to have a kid burn out on camera like that. With the uncertainty of the Lizzie McGuire reboot up in the air, I certainly hope that we get to see the return of Miranda. Coming into number 6, we have Chloe Grace Moretz. Remember the 2008 Disney film Bolt? The one about the dog who wants to be a superhero? Well, did you know that the actress Chloe Grace Moretz was actually supposed to be the voice of Penny? Yep, that's right. Disney had cast Chloe to play the voice of Bolt's owner Penny, but was let go from the project and the role was given to Miley Cyrus instead. Chloe had actually recorded the whole movie when they decided, actually no, we want Miley instead. I mean, come on Disney. The girl spends all her time voicing the entire movie and you just decided to let her go? That's just mean. Producers still credited Chloe in the movie as the voice of young Penny, but still, that's gotta hurt. Just like our boy Tio, being kicked from the project at the last minute has gotta be one of the worst feelings ever. Luckily, being recast didn't hurt her career one bit. She's still one of the most sought after actresses in the industry and continues to find work outside of Disney. Halfway through at number 5, Jake T. Austin. Former Wizards of Waverly Place actor Jake T. Austin saw a lot of success when working on the Disney Channel. After finding fame alongside Selena Gomez and David Henry, Jake went on to pursue another role on the ABC Family show The Fosters. ABC Family, a subsidiary of the Disney empire, basically has the same sort of standards for their actors. They all have to keep their noses clean and stay family friendly, and as long as they follow the rules, they can have a career. They honestly sound a little culty, but I digress. Jake jumped into the new hit series playing the role of Jesus and saw a lot of success. But then, just out of freaking nowhere, Jake goes AWOL and gets into some trouble. In 2013, Jake was arrested and charged with a DUI. Jake, who was 18 at the time, was able to handle things pretty discreetly and not much news broke of it. Fast forward to 2014, and Jake lands himself back into some more trouble, this time being involved in a pretty serious crash. Now get this, Jake had allegedly driven into 3 parked cars, then threw a bottle of Ciroc out of the window and Ubered away from the crash. Talk about chaotic. First of all, how do you hit 3 parked cars at once? Like, I don't understand how that would work. Secondly, he just threw a bottle of premium grade vodka out the window. Probably to prevent himself from getting another DUI, but still, that ish is pretty pricey nonetheless. And number 3, who just Ubers away from a crash like that? You just got yourself a witness, my guy. You're not very good at committing crimes. Now obviously this kind of behavior upset the head honchos at Disney, and his Foster's character was recast to Hollywood's newest heartthrob, Noah Centineo. Jake, you done effed up on that one. In at number 4, Mitchel Musso. Oh, Oliver, how you done goofed. Former Disney Channel actor Mitchel Musso, best known for his role as Oliver Oaken in Hannah Montana, saw his career crash and burn in 2011. Just shortly after the end of Hannah Montana, Mitchel, who was just 20 years old at the time, was charged with a DUI when he was pulled over by an officer after failing to comply with police-directed traffic. Musso was in deep trouble with this one, because not only was his blood alcohol level way above the legal limit, he was also not supposed to be drinking alcohol in the first place, since in the US the legal drinking age is 21, and he had not quite quite reached that age at the time of the incident. Now, in true Mickey Mouse fashion, Mitchell was shunned from Disney because of this. He was kicked off his upcoming Disney project Pair of Kings, and they even refused to acknowledge his part in it. He was well and truly shunned from the company. He had also been part of the cast of Phineas and Ferb, and was obviously banished from that project as well, but at least they gave him some credit. Following his DUI charge, his legal battle began, but luckily for Musso, he wasn't given jail time. Instead, he was served with 36 months probation, forced to take an alcohol education class, and he had to pay a fine. Since then, his career has never been the same, and he was never able to pick up the same success that he once had on the Disney Channel, but I guess that's just the universe's way of punishing him. Coming down to the wire, let's talk about PewDiePie. Or should I say, PewDiePie. I don't know if he still does that, but I'm saying it anyway. The YouTube gamer, who was scheduled to have a collaboration with Maker Studios, a Disney-owned company, was quickly dropped after being faced with backlash following a slew of anti-Semitic jokes. The backlash coming at Pewds came from a series of since-deleted videos where he featured a mix of anti-Semitic jokes and Nazi imagery. Now, Pewds, I know you've built your fame off being loud and critical and making jokes and whatnot, but don't you think that joking about some serious discrimination is probably not the best thing for your career? The best, or probably the worst example of this poor decision, comes from a video he posted where we see two men holding up a sign that says "Death to all Jews" and another that features someone dressed as Jesus saying Hitler did nothing wrong. Like, dude, seriously? How did you think you could post this and get away with it? You should have seen the hate coming from light years away. Clearly, this kind of thing really upset the people at Maker Studios, and they decided to cut ties with the YouTuber shortly after these videos were published. Of all the times you could have been offensive, and of all the times you could have been publicly scrutinized, you chose the moment after you signed with one of the biggest companies in the world to go and mess things up for yourself. PewDiePie went ahead and issued an apology, saying that he does not support that kind of behavior and that the message was misconstrued, but no one was really buying that. The video was made to show how Pewds paid people on the website Fiverr to make banners and film themselves, but that still doesn't take away from the fact that even though he could have made the people he hired to do anything, he chose to make them include anti-Semitic messages. Bad move on your part, Pewds. In at number 2, Jake Paul. We all know YouTuber Jake Paul for his YouTube antics, but back in 2017, it was those very antics that got him fired from his role on the Disney Channel show Bizaardvark. With all the shenanigans Jake and his Team 10 housemates got into, Jake's neighbors were not thrilled with having them there. There had reportedly been so many house calls and complaints against Jake and the Team 10 house that it started to get media attention. And you know Disney, if it's not good news for them, it's bad news for you. The YouTuber's bad press was not good for Disney's image, so some tough decisions had to be made. The execs at Disney came to the decision to let Jake go, and supposedly the decision was mutual with Jake's team. I kinda don't buy that. I can't really believe that Jake made the decision to leave Disney, since being on the show was his dream and the whole reason he moved to California in the first place. I know that he was getting a lot of success on his own from YouTube, but being fired from Disney probably wasn't part of Jake's plan. He said that he and his team had made the decision to leave, but I think what really happened is that he just didn't want to seem upset about it and let it go. I mean, he took the L and moved on. Things for Jake have been pretty okay since then, although he's already a divorcee, but I guess that's just how Jake rolls. And in the number 1 spot, we have Bella Thorne. Miss Bella Thorne, known best for her time on Disney's Shake It Up, really shook things up for Disney after a few years under the mouse's iron fist. Ever since moving on from the entertainment empire, Bella has been very vocal about her time working on Disney and why she was let go. As it goes for a lot of Disney stars, their contracts limit their freedom as individuals. They're asked to stay pretty PG and kid-friendly as they work there, but for some stars who grow up on the platform, this rule tends to be pretty restricting. As Bella grew up on TV, she wanted to express herself more and just really be herself, but obviously Disney doesn't like that. Really, the thing that started to anger Disney and push them to let Bella go were her clothing choices. Whenever Bella would dress up in a crop top or be seen out in a bikini, some execs were not happy because it wasn't brand friendly enough. All Bella wanted to do was wear what she felt made her happy, but apparently this was against the contract. If this sort of thing happened to me, I'd probably react in the same way Bella did and just keep on doing it. No one really has much right to tell you what you can and cannot wear, and it's not really fair to have those sort of rules in place. So Bella kept on pushing until they were fed up with her and they let her go. Now Bella is free to do whatever she wants, like direct adult films and start an OnlyFans. She's her own boss now and she's killing the game.
At number 10, Chloe Grace Moretz. Disney is a bit of a controversial studio. They put a lot of pressure on their stars and like everything to be done in a certain way, so it doesn't surprise me that they would make a lot of last-minute creative decisions. One aspect of their franchise that is very perfectionist is their animation department, because Disney is sort of known for their animated films. Remember the 2008 animated Disney film Bold? Bolt, the movie about that cute little dog actor who wanted to be a real superhero? Well, this film is one that faced a last-minute change that cost someone their job. Though Miley Cyrus is the one who voiced Bolt's owner Penny, the role originally belonged to actress Chloe Grace Moretz. Chloe had actually recorded her lines for the entire movie before the decision was made to cut her from the film and replace her. It's believed that they thought her voice sounded too young for the character, so they found someone with a more mature voice, but luckily for Chloe, producers still credited her in the movie as the voice of young Penny. Her hard work wasn't completely scrapped since some of it was still kept in the final film, but still, being kicked from the project at the last minute has gotta be one of the worst feelings ever. At number 9, Eric Stoltz. When I hear about actors being replaced in movies, I sometimes wonder how the film would have been different with a different cast. One of the films I'm most curious about is Back to the Future, because after finding out that Michael J. Fox wasn't originally cast as Marty McFly, I wonder how things would have been different, because Michael was perfect for that role. Originally, the role went to actor Eric Stoltz, and they had filmed a substantial amount of footage with Eric as Marty McFly, but later the filmmakers decided that he just wasn't fit for the role. Eric Stoltz was a method actor, and he took his character very seriously to the point where he asked cast members to refer to him as Marty McFly off camera. I guess this dedication to the role was just a little too serious for the film, because Marty's character is a little more laid back and goofy, and so they needed someone to fit that style. They ended up firing Eric and brought in Michael to fill in the role, reshooting many of the scenes that Eric had previously done. Though the final cut of the film is mostly Michael's work, it's believed that there are a few of Eric's scenes that made it through, so that's a little fun Easter egg to look out for next time you watch Back to the Future. Now before I carry on with the list, I'd like to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and also check out my gaming channel Viper Girl if you're interested in having some fun gaming time with me. At number 8, Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin has always been a controversial person. She's been in her fair share of controversies, but one of her biggest scandals happened back in 2017 when she made headlines after a photo was posted online of her holding a replica of Donald Trump's head, all severed and bloody. When this photo was originally released, all hell broke loose and her career was severely damaged. Because of the backlash that she suffered as a result of this post, she was reportedly blacklisted from Hollywood. CNN ended up cutting ties with her as this scandal caused her to lose out on a lot of her credibility, and Trump as well as his family addressed the picture, calling it disgusting, and many other supporters were not impressed by Kathy's actions. Kathy later issued an apology for her actions, but this post was really something that she could not come back from. She received a lot of hate, and people even made up some serious rumors about her quote-unquote political agenda. Originally, she apologized for her actions and said that she regretted posting it after seeing how so many people took offense to it, but she's seemingly gone back on that regret as she reposted the photo to her social media following the events of the US presidential election. But I mean, it's not like she can get fired again, right? At number 7, Mark Webber. Back in 2019, actor Mark Webber, known for his role in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, had some harsh words for TV network ABC after he was fired from their show Stumptown. At the time, the show had just been picked up by the network and was working on producing the series, and Mark was cast in a lead role as the best friend and love interest opposite Colby Smolder's character Dax, whom the show is centered around. Mark said that he was fired from his role on the show because he wasn't, quote, handsome enough for executives. In response, he took to Twitter to blast the network, calling their choice degrading. In one of his many tweets slamming ABC, he said, quote, "Look, I'm a straight white male, so I know my journey has been way less painful in this warped industry, but I'm being recast in a network television show because I'm not handsome enough for the executive. It's important for me to share the real pain we endure in this industry," end quote. He also spoke out about how the industry is so fixated on the appearances of their stars, saying how things need to be changed. Though there were some people coming to support Mark, others said that this was kind of whiny. But what do you guys think? Did he have a point, or was he just acting on his anger? At number 6, Hartley Sawyer. We've seen so many celebrities get canceled because of things they've said in the past. Old interviews and appearances have been dug up before, leading to another celebrity having to own up to their mistake. But one thing that most celebrities fall victim to is resurfaced tweets. For actor Hartley Sawyer, his past tweets not only got him fired, but has seemingly cost him his whole Hollywood career. After some of his past racist, sexist, and offensive tweets came to light earlier last year, Hartley was fired from his role as Ralph Dibny on the CW show The Flash. This all happened as the Black Lives Matter movement began to gain traction last summer, and while people were calling on celebrities to own up to their past mistakes, Hartley's tweets were deemed too controversial and offensive to recover from. After firing the actor, the Flash showrunners released a statement informing fans of the show's decision to let Hartley go, where they said, quote, "In regards to Mr. Sawyer's posts on social media, we do not tolerate derogatory remarks that target any race, ethnicity, national origin, gender, or sexual orientation. Such remarks are anti-ethical to our values and policies, which strive and evolve to promote a safe, inclusive, and productive environment for our workforce," end quote. Since being fired from the show, Hartley's career has pretty much been tanked, and he's considered blacklisted. At number 5, Holly Hunter. Another big last-minute change that ended with a celebrity losing their job comes from the 2005 animated film Chicken Little, and it has a very big change. We all know the film as being centered around a little chicken who thinks the sky is falling, but we also know that the main character is a boy. Turns out that originally Chicken Little was a girl, and she was voiced by Holly Hunter. The actress had lent her voice to the film, and she recorded her lines for the entire film. She worked on this movie for 8 months, but after all that hard work, the studio decided to take the character in a different direction and made Chicken Little into a male character. Holly was replaced by Zach Braff, who re-recorded the lines for the film and had his voice pitched up in post-production. I honestly would have loved to see the film have a female lead, but I guess it was just too good and the studio wouldn't want our brains to explode from how awesome it was. At number 4, James Gunn. In another case of tweets that got people fired, we have director James Gunn. Some of Gunn's old tweets were exposed in 2018, and they offended quite a number of people. The tweets included some incredibly offensive and controversial themes like inappropriate remarks and talking about hurting others, as well as other insensitive messages. As a result, Disney fired James just before production was set to begin on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and in a statement released by the company, the executives at Disney said, quote, "The offensive attitudes and statements discovered on James' Twitter feed are indefensible and inconsistent with our studio's values, and we have severed our business relationship with him." After issuing an apology to the public, it seems as though James successfully won over the executives at Disney and was rehired to direct Guardians 3, but has everyone really gotten over James's tweets, or will people just use them against him? Let me know what you think down in the comments. At number 3, Roseanne Barr. Actress and comedian Roseanne Barr was finding a lot of success for herself after her sitcom reboot got off the ground, but all of that went away in 2018 after a Twitter scandal had her canceled and fired from her network. Soon, her good press about her show getting renewed for a new season turned sour, and all eyes were on Roseanne after she faced backlash for an offensive and racist tweet about Barack Obama's former senior advisor, Valerie Jarrett. Roseanne tweeted comparing Valerie to an ape, and as a result, Roseanne had her show and career canceled. Though she later deleted the tweet and issued a public apology for her offensive actions, nothing could really save her career at this point, and now she's believed to have been blacklisted from Hollywood as a result. The actress later tried to backtrack, claiming that she thought Valerie Jarrett was white, but no one was really buying into her excuse, and it just made things worse for her instead of better. Roseanne has also gone on to say in interviews that Hollywood shunned her because of her political beliefs, saying that it's unfair, but right now, no one's really looking to help her redeem herself in the eyes of Hollywood. At number 2, Edward Norton. If you're a Marvel fan, then you may recall that there have been 2 different actors who have portrayed the Hulk in the MCU. Although many of us know Mark Ruffalo as the coveted green guy, actor Edward Norton was the one who first took on the role in the 2008 movie The Incredible Hulk. Though that movie was pretty successful, they fired him from the role and decided to not rehire him for the 2012 movie The Avengers, which is where Mark Ruffalo took on the role. Edward was reportedly fired from his role because of clashes on set. Some people have said that Edward can be very controlling on set, and the one event that really solidified Marvel's decision to fire Norton came after he and some studio executives got into a heated argument over their desire to add more action scenes to the film. That decision just didn't really sit right with Norton, and apparently he hulked out. Honestly, I couldn't imagine the MCU in the position it is now without Mark Ruffalo, so I think it was a good creative decision. But what do you guys think? And finally, number 1, Megan Fox. After having a significant role in the Transformers films, actress Megan Fox was fired from her role, and she faced a lot of backlash. Not too long ago, Megan spoke out about her Hollywood career and how it has caused her so many personal problems, like people seeing her as nothing but a hot woman and not the skilled actress that she really is. When she was fired from Transformers, Michael Bay said that the decision came after she was, quote, a nightmare to work with. This comment came about after Megan made a comment on set about how strict Michael was to work with, and when fellow director Steven Spielberg caught wind of these comments, he advised Bay to fire her, and that is exactly what happened. This reputation of being difficult to work with really followed Megan for a while, as people saw her in a negative light, though none of that was really true. Now Megan is doing her own thing and is living her truth as an outspoken feminist and a proud supporter of the Me Too movement, so really she just uses this negativity as fuel. You go, Megan.